You are listening to the People Centric Podcast, where we talk through the toughest challenges that people face at work and give practical advice to fixing those challenges. Thanks for joining our movement to create workplaces that are happier, healthier, aligned, and empowered by putting people at the center of all that we do.
Hello, People Centric leaders. We are excited to talk with you today. I am Philip Herzog, engagement specialist. I hope you remember my voice because I would remember yours if I listened to your podcast. And with me today to talk about how habit stacking is possible, how a mode is greater than mood, I have the one and only co-founder of People Centric, Diana Royalty.
Hello. I feel like this topic is very relevant and important to me. It speaks to my heart.
I basically think you are a system. You are a human system. When movies start of like, there's a life form that has descended on Earth and now they are functional. I'm like, they're talking about a Diana Royalty.
I've been called
People
worse.
Centric system.
That's
She is.
It is. And we also have another force to reckon with, Bethany Taff.
Wow, thank you so much. So glad to be here.
Yeah, Bethany, on this topic of systems, I feel like you're a very efficient person in many ways. And if there was a spectrum between the three of us, I think Diana is on one end of the spectrum. I feel as though I'm probably in the middle in a lot of ways. And then Bethany, you're maybe on the other end, like not the farthest end, but you and Diana are not necessarily the same.
Yeah, we're not the same. I think what I have found is that when I have systems installed for myself, I do really well with them. I enjoy them. I benefit a lot from them, but I don't naturally think in terms of systems. So I think it's something that I'm trying to grow and develop more understanding of like, how do I build more systems into my life and think that way? Because I don't understand how Diana just does all of these things, but I would like to understand it more.
The only trick I have is I don't have children at home. That's what it is, Bethany. It's that you have children at home. So you literally cannot build a system at this point in your life. I'm just going to give you grace there.
But I'm really trying. I will say I do feel like I was more organized before I had kids. But they have their own minds and they like to make messes and think differently than me too. So
We'll take care of them later. Those charming little humans. We will systematize them by the end of our conversation. The last piece of that, there is a difference between the like oasis paradise of Tacoma, Washington, and the insane weed-ridden, bug-infested terrain of Missouri. The Ozarks are beautiful. So there's just some systems. We're just trying to survive down here in the Ozarks. We've had flooding and rain, and Washington doesn't even know what a hailstorm or a thunderstorm is like, right? So a lot of it, your environment. You were intentional in choosing an environment that creates a great system.
Yeah. I did have systems in Missouri too. So I don't know. There's something.
We can't blame. I've heard the phrase, it's not your nature versus nurture, it's your nurtured nature. Which I'm curious, Dana, could you, to kick us off, talking about systems, how would you define the difference between a habit and a system? How do those two things work together?
Okay. This is a good point because I think when people talk about systems and habits, they don't necessarily connect those two things. And to me, all of my habits are ingrained in one part of a system, which creates then a bigger ecosystem. So I'll use the example of like that I think everyone can get behind is like your health. So my health and wellness system is part of a big bucket. But inside that bucket are the habits that make me work out and eat right and meal prep and go to the doctor regularly and do all the things that feed my health and wellness system are the habits within that and all of those little things. So to me, all of the little habits build up to the bigger system, and the bigger system also has a why behind it. Because I think if you don't have the why or the purpose, then you kind of lose what you're doing. So anyway, that's how I would sort of describe it in the world. Is that helpful?
I love that. I think one way I've heard it said before is that environment beats intention. And I think we see that often. We might come into a team and they'll say, we had this amazing strategic plan, or we had these great goals, or I raised my hand and I suggested that my team does something, but it didn't go anywhere. Everybody wanted it to, everybody thought it was a great idea, but nothing ever took. Nothing ever was strategically executed. And I think that speaks a lot to what you're talking about, the difference between a habit and intention in a system. I think another way to put it is just your habits and systems are the intentional things you put in place to do things, even when you maybe feel like you don't want to do them. I imagine when you work out, what percentage of the time when you start a workout or put on the tennis shoes to start going to the gym, what percentage of the time are you excited and ready to do that?
Low percentage. I'm not like I get endorphins from working out kind of person. I'm a you must work out for your health and wellness type person. And so probably 20% of the time I'm excited to do this. I'd rather do most other things.
I was making a face because I was like, are endorphins optional? It feels like that's just like science. Like you just, if you work out, like you get endorphins.
I mean, maybe, but I don't think that way
That's
when
just
I'm
not why
going.
you do it.
Yes.
Got
Yes.
it.
Yeah. It doesn't trigger something
You
for
said
me.
I'm not an endorphin person, and I was like, wait a second. I don't think that's
You're
how
not a
that works.
human.
Is that the bumper sticker for someone who's highly systems oriented? Like hashtag endorphins optional. You're like, what? No. Bethany, I also like you bring up the point that, well, it's important to have a why. And also, what do we want to do about it? I want to enjoy things. This is Philip speaking. I love to enjoy the things I do. And not every second of our day at People Centric, whether it's training or coaching or strategy sessions, we're not full-time podcasters. We do a lot of client work. That's really what we do. I get great enjoyment and satisfaction from it. And yeah, I think one thing I love about what we do, we have freedom within a framework is one way we talk about it. And so we approach a lot of clients in different ways. They all come with different needs. They're in different places. But we have a framework that we have freedom with, that we approach it to still analyze their systems. So it's our own system that interacts with other company systems that then lead to a partnership that improve teams and success and profits and alignment. So curious, we could take this a couple of different directions. What would you all say if we were looking at some general systems that are most often people have the best intentions of having them, but they have the most struggle implementing them? What comes to mind?
You mean at work or at home?
Let's start with home.
Okay.
Home. It's probably, I think it's health and wellness. I think that's the system that people are always like, I'm doing all the things.
Mm,
And that one gets lost a lot.
You just stop doing it, and
Because
they get tired of it, or they're like, it's a lot to keep up with, or it's
so
I
much.
don't feel like it today, or nobody's holding me accountable, so like I'll just like if I don't do it, then so what?
Yeah. And I think like the results are not instant. So it's hard. That part's hard. And like
Yes.
there's also a million voices in that space. So it's like
Where do
drink
you
all
start?
your water, don't do caffeine, eliminate high fructose corn syrup, work out every day, do strength training, also yoga, also
Yeah.
Pilates, also cardio. I mean, it's just like it's so much. It's too much and so much. And
I
so
think that's the thing, Diana. I think there's between whether that's personal systems or work systems is like I think for a lot of people it's just like analysis paralysis. It's just like where do you even start? Like that sounds great. That sounds great. I would love a system for this. I would love a system for that. I would love but like there's so many options. What do we do first? How do you determine that?
How do you determine that? So I'm
Good
curious
question.
on the
It's my real
well-being.
question.
How do you determine? Yeah, that's I'll say I am not the most consistent fitness person on the planet. Claire and I have our own rhythms. For us, going again, we're my middle approach. Our system, we recently got rid of many different subscriptions because we just decided we're tired of this. No more. And we put a few books in places that are just easier to grab, right? Our art TV that was gifted to us, we didn't buy it ourselves. We just have our favorite art playing on all the time. And if it's already in art mode, we're less likely to play a movie, right? Another thing, we were eating dinner and watching a show because I hate the sound of people eating. And for me, honestly, I was like, I am gonna just get over this. So like I will listen to jazz music while we eat, and then I don't listen to any music when I eat anymore. These are just some of my own personal things. The reason I mention all of those, it's like the habit stacking is something that Diana has mentioned before on our team, and I think that's it, where it's overwhelming if you think of carbs and stretching and cardio and high intense intervals. And for me, cycling and paddleboarding, and I walk with my dog and my wife, does that count? Does it not? Simplify it, and it's like this week, what do I want to focus on? And if you can do something long enough it doesn't feel new, then you can add the next new thing and keep it on top of the old thing. And that is building a system over time. What would you all add to that?
I absolutely love that. And I also think that it's really important to identify the system that you're working on, right? Like in my brain, I have to say, this is part of my health and wellness system, and then identify why that system is important to you. And for me, I did a lot of stuff like, oh, it's important because you got to be healthy, right? This is what people say. But I had a few years recently where I watched people in my life who are not that much older than me age really poorly. And they were like, I don't know, they just seemed fragile and they had heart surgeries and they couldn't walk a mile. And, like, and I don't think they're that old, right? It was a shifting point in my life where I was like, oh my God, I'm 40. These people are in their 50s. That's not that much older. And they like cannot do what I want to be able to do. And so that just watching that made me shift all of my health and wellness habits to the why of I want to age well. It was just like really specific and really purposeful to me. And it was not a general, oh, to be healthy, right? It was like to avoid that scary thing, right? I don't want to do that. And so I identified the system and I chose something that was very purposeful so that when I'm having the bad day and saying, like, I don't really want to do this, I can remind myself that it's not about eating right for general health or eating right so that you are skinny or eating. It's about the very long term of like, I want to age well. And that is purposeful to me.
Oh,
So
that's so beautifully said. It's funny. I think my well-being statement for myself, I think a lot about how I show up for myself or where I am. I love nature. So if I'm not out in nature and I'm not reading a book, I am probably with people or my dog. So I think about, can it sustain my energy to show up really well? For me, it's not sacrificing sleep, making my good 3 meals happen, different phases, different things. But I love that for where you're at, that is your statement. Mine. Bethany, what's yours? I'm curious.
My statement?
Or yeah, what's your kind of like that well-being drive? What would you say drives your well-being?
I mean, definitely something similar to Diana as well, probably, of just like you think about, you see your family especially, and sort of saying, because your genetics are strong, right? And so like, how do I want my life to look as I continue to age is definitely a part of it. And also like, how do I want to show up and interact with like my family and be able to have the energy for them and get to like go do fun things with them and all of that. So some of that for me is like the purpose behind. But then there's also like, yeah, there's other things too of like I have had kids, and so like I've watched my body go through lots of changes over the years. So I know that things are possible. All kinds of things are possible. So I'll end that statement there. But I think for me, like recently, the way that I've been able to start getting like some progress on this, because I think I've tried things over time that just haven't stuck. And then I've been like, oh, I can't, like I can't get in the habit of working out. There's always something that's coming up, or whatever. I eat healthy, so I don't know why I can't like get to where I want to be or whatever. And so, like, recently, I think it was just some of the things that we've talked about with systems before, and some today already that have helped me. Recently was like starting by just tracking one thing. And there was like one area that I like before I even changed anything, I just started tracking my food, like what, like how, just like calories, or it doesn't matter for, really what you do, but honing in on one area. So that's why some people like get really into like their macros, which I still don't totally understand. That's not what I'm focused on, but like that, or their protein, or their whatever it may be, right? So I just had really no idea. I just knew like I'm eating healthy, but I don't really know like what my whole picture, my whole story around food looks like. So I just kind of like started collecting some data about like what do I eat every day? And when I started to do that, again, I didn't change anything at first. I was just collecting the data. And then I was able to see like, oh, okay. Well, for somebody who is my gender and my height and my weight and all of these different elements, right? Like comparing that information. And then I got to make a decision about like, well, what would a goal be that I would want to set? So then I could set that goal. So then you're kind of like working backwards and sort of saying like, well, what choices do I want to make to be able to make that happen and adjust this one thing, right? And so then I got to make that decision about like what I needed to adjust on just that one thing. I didn't do any, like I wasn't like I'm going to do everything. I'm going to like create my whole workout schedule this week, and I'm going to only eat this much food, and I'm only going to eat these types of food, and I'm going to blah, blah, blah. Like that's the whole system in some ways. And I wasn't doing that. I just started with the small things. And I started tracking it first. And then I was like, you know what? I could do like a 7-minute workout video on YouTube. It's free, low barrier, right? Like I don't have to pay for anything. And this feels kind of nice. And then I started being like, I bet I could do 20 minutes. And then I started it was just like they started to build. And I don't even have, this is where like I would probably differ from Diana because I'm pretty sure she has a schedule for her workout, but I'm still like building into it, right? So I'm realizing like I don't necessarily have a set like I'm doing this type of workout on this day and this type of workout on this day, but I've built up to I can do this amount of minutes of a workout video that I want to do. And I would do it most days just because I like it. Like I feel good after I do it. And so anyways, this is my evolution of this process where I feel like I'm stacking habits. And then it was like, I'm going to get labs done. And then I'm going to take these vitamins. And then, you know what I mean? Like, so there are things that have sort of started working together over time. But I think there's more that could happen if I wanted it to. I think one thing that I'll just like highlight that we've talked about before too is like how much flexibility can you have within a system? Like, does it have to be super rigid, or like can you create some flexibility to say, I'm going to do this, but there's some space in between there. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally. I love how you sort of described, you called it your evolution of systems, because I think it's so applicable to every system I've ever created. What I do is I kind of say like, what am I getting towards? What am I trying to get to? And then what data do I need to like make sure that I'm doing this well? When we were building the People Centric framework, we were like, let's look at all of the organizational psych stuff and let's bury our heads in Adam Grant and Brene Brown and Simon Sinek. And like, let's just collect all this data to figure out what people need at work, So it was just like this we know where we want to go. We kind of get an idea that we want to build this big system, but like what data and information do we need? And then I think it's natural when you start learning the things to just install little stuff along the way, right? Like, oh, I learned that blueberries are good for your health. So I'm just going to buy this carton of blueberries and eat it this week, right? That's not part of a system, but it's that sort of I'm going to put something that I've learned in action. And then your question was like, how rigid does it have to be? And I think that with all systems, that's why it's important to have the why. So if I one day am like, I'm not going to work out today, I can say and make that conscious choice of like, I'm not going to work out today because that does not, the one time does not necessarily affect my ability to age well. But if I say that 10 times, is it starting to affect the why? And the answer is probably yes, right? Like, so I think that's why you have to give yourself the why for sure. And then also know that like the system is in place so that you can make this a different choice next time. But the choice has to be made, right? You have to consciously do it. So my system for life is sort of like I autopilot everything and I just like don't make the choice. I've just like put it in there. And then if I want to opt out, I have to consciously opt out. But generally, it's just going to happen. So I think it's the like, give yourself the why and the ability to opt out if you need to, but autopilot most of it.
Yeah. So I have a question then. So one of the things we've talked about too is like, then the trick though is like, it's probably easier to create a system for yourself. But then what about like when you have to get other people involved? And let me just give you a personal example. And then maybe we can apply it to work because that's probably part of the things that will stick for people. That's why people are listening to this, right? But so I decided I'm tired of my house being messy, okay? And but I realize I don't have a system for it at all. And I'm the system, it's me. And so far it's been like
I
I'm
know that
either
I know
cleaning,
that Taylor Swift song. Hi,
it's me.
I'm the system. It's me.
It's me. I'm the
That's what she's
system.
gonna
I'm the
sing.
problem. Whatever you want to say, it's it. So, so it'd be just like random, either I'm randomly cleaning or we would have somebody come over, I've got to clean, or we would randomly tell the kids like you got to clean this or you got to randomly clean this or you got to randomly clean this. So, I was like if I was going to build a system, so then I started to think about what would that look like and I'm going to say here's what we do every day, every week. Here's what one person does, this one thing every week. And if I build that out, we're like in the first week of this, Diana. And it's really hard to get everybody on board to do this thing. And
Amen.
it's
Amen.
really hard. And I'm like, guys, I'm not asking you very much. And I'm expecting a little kicking and screaming, but I'm hopeful that like if we can get through this week, they'll be like, that was not that hard. This is not this big of a deal. And we'll all look around and be like, look how clean our house is. And like it'll be easier next week because you just did it last week. So it's like your bathroom is not as dirty as it was the first time, or you don't have that much laundry because you just did it last, you know what I'm saying? So, but like, so I'm thinking about that, like both this, so this is real time advice that I need, and also in organizations when we're like trying to create systems and get people on board for the systems, how do you do that? How do you make that happen?
Yeah. Well, let me just say, I think it's way harder with kids, but it's kids, adults are just like bigger versions of children. And so it's not always that different. But what I will say is the times I've been the most successful are when I'm able to present the problem in a way that affects them and that they also want to solve. And so maybe with like the house cleaning, it's like, well, you can never find your shoes on Tuesday. And I'm not going to help you anymore because we've put in a system for you to find your shoes on Tuesday and you didn't follow the system. So now it's a problem, but it's your problem, not my problem. Right. Like, and so I think presenting the solution and saying like, I have a solution to this problem. Can we all agree to do it? And at work, it's a lot easier at work because, everybody's kind of connected and feels that pain. And I will also say that a lot of times it's really little. I don't ever open up the whole system. I very rarely have gone to a team and been like, hey, team, I have figured out your communication system. I got it. Now, in my brain, I probably got it. I walked all the way down that road, but I'm just going to show them to the first goalpost. I'm just going to say, like, hey, let's have really clean agendas. Can everyone just like agree that we're going to have a clean agenda? And like, here's a template for that. And if we're going to have a meeting, we're going to have the agenda. Let's just agree to that. That's rule number one. Let's agree to another rule. Let's just, after we're all doing that, let's have one more rule that we're going to agree to, right? And so it's just this like teeny tiny buildup to this really big thing that may honestly take years to accomplish, but you just have to do the next little step. And you have to get people to used to that next little step, right? So maybe in your case, Bethany, like everyone doing all the cleaning, that might have been too much. You might have to reel it back and be like, okay, let's just solve the dishes in the sink problem. Let's just solve the whole house. Let's just solve the dishes in the sink. So I think it's that one really tiny thing, solving a problem that everyone sees and moving it just a little bit forward. Just one at a time.
That is helpful. Yeah.
Is it
Because
helpful?
if I were to reel it back, I was thinking like, I don't want to reel it all the way back, Diana. How long is that going to take?
Just reel it in a little bit. Just a little bit.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe if we just do laundry, maybe it's just like everybody does their own laundry this week. You have a day there's a specific day, and then we do the other stuff. That's great.
And I think that's kind of why people get overwhelmed with the health stuff. Like we were talking, like they try to do everything when it really should just be eat your blueberries every week. Do that for 5 weeks. See how you feel. Like just do one little thing. And then I like the term snowball because I feel like it does get bigger from there. And if you can have that one win, I ate blueberries for 5 weeks in a row. One win, there's something psychological about the win. And you're like, I can do more. I got this. This was not that hard. It's
I'm a
just
health
like
queen.
celebration for yourself. Yeah. Like, okay, I don't have dishes in the sink anymore. There really is something psychological about the tiny one-off win that makes you want to do more. And I think without those, it doesn't work.
I'm a Colorado native, and so growing up, there would be avalanches all the time. It would prevent us from going to Denver. And I think that's what happens on a good intention. Oftentimes, if you're not snowballing, you actually are like, we're going to do 25,000 things at once. We're going to light the TNT. And whether that's personally on your health journey with a house with a bunch of these adorable, lovely kids, to an entire company. We have a lot of leaders we talk to who will say, oh, I'm so tired. I'm so frustrated. I just need my team to be more proactive. So whatever the problem is, everyone's solution at the end of strategic planning, if we're more proactive, we're going to get everything done. And if you're snowball habit building proactive, then yes. But if you're avalanche everything everywhere all at once, no, it will not succeed, right? And so I think one of the things we tend to do organizationally wide is we like to analyze, install, and then evolve. And so what Diana's talking about, I love that example of, hey, maybe there's a lot of meetings we could fix, but if we start, let's just analyze. Do y'all think we need a good agenda? Okay, great. What do you want in this agenda? Our mission, our why, who's going to talk and for how long? And then tell them in advance, show the agenda before the meeting, and it's going to work well. Any community I'm a part of anymore, when I run a meeting and an agenda, that is how I do it. I'm like, well, I want to know. I'm going to put the time marks there and who's going to talk. And I'll talk to them before we get there so they have an idea of what we need to do. Meetings are better and it doesn't take that much work. And then you look like a rock star when you do it. And then other people do the same. And what I love, I think, is the other piece of this. People love to have a simple success. And just that's, again, simple example. If someone watches a meeting that's run really well, they realize, oh, it's not that hard to do. I can do the same thing. I have permission. And there's something about the repeated actions you have tend to become evidence of who you think you can be or who you already are. So not that that fixes everything, but it's like, hey, we're a team that respects time. And so because of that, we want to have a clear purpose. And our clear purpose is going to drive what we do. If that's the case, we have clear agendas. Hey, the Tafts have a beautiful home to host people and they can find their shoes before ballet. If that's the case, Maybe there's still a bunch of things piled up by the sink, but then also at the same time, maybe there's one or two more things done. So it's a lot to just say. I think there's so much here. There's so much meat on the bone when we talk about habits and systems and homes and organizations.
Yeah. There is, I think, like celebration to your example, Philip. I'll just say one early win was that my son, my 8-year-old son, did his laundry yesterday. He did his laundry last night. And you know what? He was like, Mom, my favorite pajamas are clean that I wore last night. They're clean again. Can I wear them again? And I was like, yes, you can wear them again. Isn't that amazing? They were dirty and you cleaned them in a day and you get to wear them again the next night. Like, amazing. And so that was a win. That was an early win. And so I'm going to live off of that for the weekend.
I love that.
it
I
so
love
much.
that was a win for him and then a win for you. You're trying this thing. It's going, and it's not always the quick, fast, simple fix. But to find the felt, anymore, I've been saying like a felt win, which again, if you're measuring in your company, a felt win can be, hey, we can buy that new thing because there's the profit here and we feel it and we see it. Or we made deadline on time and we better serve our clients because we're communicating and our kickoffs are smoother. The felt win leads to more successes. Diana.
It's so true. I'll also say that I genuinely believe that the habits that you do may start hard, right? It takes up mental energy and it starts a little hard. But the habits that stack and become just part of your life and then part of your system does make life easier. It reduces the decision fatigue. It makes you just kind of, flow through life a lot easier. And it eliminates barriers that have always been there for you. And so I know that this sounds really hard and like it just sounds like you're adding a lot of like rules and rigid and like, but I swear to you, it makes life easier. It's the lubrication that just makes life way more smoother.
I love your highlight of it makes things smoother. It can take the hard work out in some ways because then you don't have to choose and respond every single day to what am I going to do? How are we going to do this? How will we figure this out? And so there's so much more we could share. And I wonder maybe as a final round out, what would be your advice to a leader who is either trying to figure out the first habit they should start for themselves or for a wider team in the organizational setting? What's good advice to start a new habit?
I have something that's percolating that I'm like trying to get the words right. I think for a leader, I'm going to say for anyone, I think anyone who can hold their focus long enough, it will then compound your efforts and you will win. I think in a world where everyone is concentrated on immediate wins and instant gratification and innovation and moving things forward, I think anyone who can focus on the real thing they want to accomplish long enough to compound all of your efforts will win time and time again. It's that tortoise and the hare thing. It's real.
I feel motivated. Thank you. I was thinking for a leader who's trying to install something, and I think we've talked about this, but I guess I would say based on our conversations so far is like for a leader to look for their team's biggest pain point that's like felt like a shared pain point for the team, or like the lowest hanging fruit of like, this is just annoying that we still haven't solved this. So like this should be easy. This is just annoying. Feels like we could solve this if we just stop for a minute and like figure this out. Or it's the most felt common pain point across the team and then focus there first. I think that that's incredibly helpful personally and probably for a team too.
I love that. I was thinking for me, I think there's something about, we talk a lot about building team buy-in on a habit. I think there are some leaders we work with who they want their team to have the buy-in, but they're actually not bought in themselves, which would be like a parent saying, I want you all to clean the house, but I'm not going to clean the house. Or like, I want my team to work out, but I'm still going to get my lunch from Wendy's. So I think there's a question of if you want this thing to happen, will you do it? And do you want it? If so, then it will happen, which again, then you'll focus on it and it will, and your team will see that. A lot of the time when we see something implemented, if a leader doesn't really lean into it because it doesn't actually matter that much to them or they can't maintain their focus on it, it never goes anywhere. And so really think, do I want this? Is this the right thing for us? And start small. So we hope you've taken a lot from this today. Your mode, the mode, how you approach things despite what you feel, your habit stacking, these are important. So if you have examples, stories, other questions about how to habit stack well and build a system for you and your team, reach out.
I will also add, yes, reach out. I'll also add that we have a couple of exciting things happening right now at People Centric. We are doing a free strategic planning webinar. We have 2 dates. One is July 29th and one is July 30th. So if you're interested in strategic planning, it kind of ties to this, like, how do you make things stick? How do you make the habit stick? If you're interested in strategic planning and what to do to get your strategic planning to stick, join us for our free webinar. You can find information in the show notes about that. And also, we just put out a book. The book is the People Centric Framework. It's called Becoming People Centric, Designing Organizations Where People and Performance Rise Together. So please check that out. You can also find the link to that in the show notes. But yeah, exciting things happening right now. Yeah, so check them out. Otherwise, we will talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to the People Centric Podcast. We are so grateful for you joining us every week. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Also, feel free to share on your social media with everyone that you know. It really does help us. If you would like to contact us, I have put our information in the show notes. Please reach out anytime. We love hearing from you. We will be back next week with a new topic. Until then, be well and lead well.